Hi, I have Mac on my shoulder tonight. You might hear some screaming upstairs from my daughters. They are playing some game online on their phones, and they're being very mean to each other, so you might hear some screaming. I have this book here. I wrote this book. That's me, Chris Churchill, 20 Years Without a Weekend. People have asked me before if I was ever going to do an audiobook version of it, and I might. But you'll forgive this particular rendering of the chapter I'm about to read to you, because I am recording it not on professional podcast equipment, but on this thing here, this hole. There's a hole in my computer that records things. I believe it's a camera of some type. Anyways, but because it is Halloween, I'm going to read you, and I know it's been a while since I've been on this, on my channel. Mac and I are going to read you chapter 27 from my book. I think it's only 5 pages or so hang in there. Called The Crow and the Army Man. Maybe I'll fill it in with AI imagery. I don't know. I probably won't. We'll see. Chapter 27, The Crow and the Army Man. I know it was October 28th. I don't know what year. I know my niece Jordan was in high school and that her birthday would be at... Try it again. I know my niece Jordan was in high school and that her birthday would strike at midnight. So it must have been the late 2000s. Yes, Uncle Chris called his niece at the stroke of midnight and left a message. I won. I beat the rest of my family to the birthday wish. I was on another pub crawl. Halloween themed, of course. The exciting stuff never happens at the beginning of the pub crawl. So I'll zip the story along to the end. I was parked outside a club that was just outside of Wrigleyville, a notorious spot for drinking to excess on Monday through Sunday, and doubly so on special occasions like Wednesday through Tuesday. It was Halloween, so there would be more drinking still. But this group was pretty together for the most part. I remember this was one of those groups where someone would ask me at some point in the night, "Are we the worst group you've ever had?" And I'd be baffled that they'd even asked. Had they not read the previous 2 pub crawl stories? Earlier in the book, you have to get the book. "You guys are fine," I'd always reply. Frequently, when they asked this, they've been sitting perfectly still on the trolley with their drinks in their laps, tapping their foot to adult contemporary music on the way. These people want so much to have been the worst group you've ever had, but they just don't have it in them to be. This Halloween, this group was not the worst group I'd ever had. They went into the second to last club. I was to wait for them there. Then when they came out, I could drop them at the final destination. I had already made that birthday call to Jordan, so it was after midnight. Then they started trickling out. Most of them dressed as sexy versions of some job or some kind of superhero. I don't remember there being anything mind-blowing about their costumes, but I do remember that one guy had decided to dress up as an army man. I don't mean a live human soldier defending this country. That would have been a little tacky. He was dressed like those little plastic soldiers that kids who grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s may have owned. My brother and I had them. We waged war for fun. He was one of those plastic toy army men. I had commented on the costume when he had boarded. I liked it. He was glad I liked it. Army Man came back to the trolley. Now, depending on the season, the trolleys will be wide open on the sides, and the big, clear, soft plastic flaps will be on the side, or there will be solid metal panels with glass windows in place of those plastic flaps. It was late October, so we had tiny windows. I was trying not to pay attention to what was going on as we sat there, gradually taking on more of our crew from the club. Then I noticed the army man was craning his neck to yell something out of one of the tiny glass windows. I checked my rear view, then my side mirror to see what was going on. There was a young man dressed as the Crow from the 90s and a pretty young woman on his arm. The army man had just upset them with whatever he had said. I recognized this because the Crow dropped his head down in a sort of nerve-gathering motion. He had been hit with an insult. He received it, lowered his head, and decided to jump into action, just like Brandon Lee would have done. He walked quickly over to the door of the trolley. I should pause to mention that I have been accused of having a very Pollyanna attitude about the world sometimes. It's true a lot of times. This was one of those times. I thought in that quick but tense moment, I'll just open the door and talk to him. I opened the door, but before I could open my mouth, the crow had moved quickly, but only semi-stealthily, like a drunken shadow, past me and to the back of the trolley. Now here's where my laziness is fueled by my optimism. I didn't want to get up because the seat was comfortable. I just kind of hoped this would work out. I did look up to the rearview mirror to see. The moment I began to look up to the mirror, I heard the unmistakable sound of human-to-human chaos. Rumbling, crashing, and grunting coming from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. It wasn't huge, it wasn't really loud, but it was a fight. I thought, well, I caused this. I had stupidly opened the door in the hopes of negotiating with a man who I could tell had let alcohol convince him that he really was the crow. So in my mind, this was my problem now. I was going to have to fix it. Now, I'm not a tough guy, but I am a guy who is obsessed with fairness, morality, and self-image. The idea that I could have, through my own laziness and naivete, allowed this dangerous situation to escalate caused me to get up from my seat and slowly, because I don't ever move quickly, made my way back to the scene of the fight. I was a youngish man at the time. I was bigger than both of them, and they were drunk, so it was easy. I grabbed the crow from behind through his bent elbows and pulled him away from the scuffle. This was when I became fully certain he was not the real crow. The real crow would have had a countermove to my arm-grabbing technique. I briefly became a grumpy, nerdy old man. You're not supposed to be in here anyway. I didn't invite you in. You're trespassing. I turned him around and led him down the aisle toward the stairwell. As I was leading him, his girlfriend stepped into the trolley and began to calm him. I guess you could say I sort of silently handed him off into the custody of his girlfriend. She quietly scolded and encouraged him at the same time. We all arrived at the stairwell. The crow had composed himself just enough that he wanted to say something. He said to me, "I'm okay." He said it in a way that was meant to assure me he wasn't going to run back in and start the fight afresh. I believed him. He turned slowly, ominously. I don't know. Maybe he was the real crow? He addressed the crowd. "Everyone, have a wonderful night." Then, with a nearly imperceptible head turn, he looked toward his foe. "Pussy!" I shuffled him off the trolley. Then something happened that I've never before or since had happen. A crowd of women in sexy costumes began to chant my name. Chris, 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 Chris. Occasionally you daydream about not being married. That's that book. If you want more stories like this, I'll put the link in the comments or whatever. I don't know where you put the link in YouTube, in the place where you put links. In the description, that's what I was saying. I'll put it there. And yeah, maybe one day I'll actually do that as a full audiobook. Later.